Authorizing the execution and delivery of a good and sufficient deed conveying interest in a portion of tax map number 45-453-003 containing 1.7 acres on Cowhead Road in Hemingway, South Carolina, to the town of Hemingway pursuant to a fee in lieu of property tax agreement between Williamsburg County and Dart Industries, aka also known as Tupperware USA Inc., and the execution of a partial release of lien of the same. This time, does anyone have any questions, comments, or concerns? We also have Ms. Carletha D. Smith here to answer any questions regarding the grant application. Please state your name.
Good evening. I'm Cassandra Williams Rush. To Dr. Wright, council members, and Williamsburg County citizens. I am Cassandra Williams Rush. I am the volunteer, self-appointed African-American historian for Williamsburg County, and the owner and curator of the C. Williams Rush Museum of African-American History and Culture, located at 200 Hampton Avenue since 2010. This museum was established in 2010, and it was run with the personal funds of Cassandra, with the purpose of providing the African-American experience, culture, and history to Williamsburg County school children, the community, and attract visitors and tourists to Kingstree and Williamsburg County. We have been successful in featuring numerous rotating exhibitions to include African Americans in History, that would run February and beyond. Another exhibition was African American dolls, antiques, vintage, artist limited edition dolls, and about 65 originals by our very talented and creative African American doll artists. Another exhibit was handmade quilts by Williamsburg County quilters, and even did a special on the artwork of Williamsburg County students and the Harlem Renaissance. I have brought numerous tour groups that visited the C. Williams Rush Museum, the Williams Vineyard and Farm, and I personally saw to it that some of these groups also visited the Historical Society, and I have conducted African American tours of Kingstree. I'm in the process of creating an African American tourism brochure for the county. I have already created a brochure of agritourism for the county. The C. Williams Rush Museum has had limited hours this past year because I was assisting with the care of my mom and packing and moving from Columbia. The functions and purpose of the museum continued as I continued to research the history and contributions of Williamsburg County African Americans. This month, I have published 3 articles in the news. Thank you, Michelle. The first was on Professor Anderson, William M. Anderson, who the school is named after. Williamsburg County attorneys, to begin with Swales. This week, you'll see an article on Dr. Mason and the early medical doctors in Williamsburg County. Since 2010, I have now researched and published about 30 articles on Williamsburg County African Americans. This is my passion. This is my history. Now, after the article was published in the news, there was about the African American Museum back in January. There was an outburst of concern as to why I was not mentioned in the African American Museum to be established in Kingstree, as if none existed here already. I received numerous calls as to what was going on and why was I not included. Last check, there were over 2,400 2,400 persons that viewed the video, and many persons wanted answers. And thanks to Sue Ham for bringing that to the forefront. Now, when I returned here in 2010, I felt it like the day I left in 1966. I had grown, learned, and I was exposed to people from different cultural groups. I learned to appreciate their culture and history as they learned to appreciate mine. I sensed no such growth in many people I encountered here and interacted with. era is over. I have a history too, a very significant history, and no one can tell my history. I know what it feels like to be discriminated against, and that's not a good feeling. There's an awful feeling that's in the pit of your stomach when I'm treated as a second-class citizen, as if I do not have the same rights and privileges as the next person. Let us not forget, after the Williamsburg County Council meeting in March of 2015, a volunteer and I had a conversation with a person who told us to our face that there was no need for an African American museum in Williamsburg County. And I mean, I was just floored. I said, well, this county is over 67% African American. Why is there not a need? And at this time, I had the museum and was funding it 100% out of my pocket, because I was being told there's no need for an African American museum. Okay, now when the meetings were held at the train depot asking for suggestions for the Main Street project, I always suggested an African American museum and the arts. That is what draws people to a city or town. With a county of over 67% African American, we have what it takes to attract tourists, but we do not want to be used or taken for granted. My request is to let us develop a consciousness of all segments of the Williamsburg County population, and all history is important. Now please keep me and the African American population of Williamsburg County in high esteem, and please allow me to tell my own history. And when I came in 2010, I really came back to give back. So that is one of my main focus. I do want to share whatever it is I have with my people here in Williamsburg County. Thank you.
Do we have any more questions, comments, or concerns? Go ahead.
Madam Supervisor, if I may, members of the council, I just wanted to respond a little to Mrs. Rush, because there was no intent to overlook her in any of our efforts. The museum just came about through Williamsburg County efforts to get a civil rights museum here, and we looked at different sites and whatnot, and this site became available, and we were able to get funding for it. So at this point in time, no citizens have been involved in what will go into the museum. This particular application will support heritage tourism in Williamsburg County. The project will provide for exhibit planning, background research, and exhibit content writing, along with digital graphic production services needed to develop the exhibits and displays to be contained in the museum. At the time that we get this actual grant, we will have charades and everything, inviting the public to come out, and hopefully we'll directly make sure that you're there, Cassandra, because I know you have a passion for this work. At that time, people will be involved, but right now, we're just trying to get bricks and mortar. We had no physical location to provide for this activity, and I know Cassandra does things and so forth, but it wasn't a county museum, it was a private enterprise, and this is kind of a public partnership that transpired. So we apologize though if but there was no mention of any personal individuals in the article. It merely dealt with what the county was doing to get a museum established.
Any other questions? Please come to the microphone. Limit your time to 1 to 3 minutes, and state your first and your last name.
Anita James McMillan.
Speak up, please.
Anita James McMillan. I just want to say, in reference to what you just happened to say, Cassandra has too been doing this for quite a while.
Talk in the mic, please.
I have been working with her on this project also. So what you're saying that the county or the public or the private person was doing this, she's been in the paper for quite a while. Okay, so whatever that person is saying or whatever you're doing, you should not exclude her. And you're wrong as part of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, we're going to go ahead and close the public hearing. Now we're going to call to order our regularly scheduled meeting, and we will have our invocation by no other than Reverend Jerry Dix with Bethel United Methodist Church to do our invocation.
Let us bow our heads. God of all nations, you have called all people to lives of righteousness and peace. You have called all people to live in holiness. But we confess that sometimes we have cared more for lofty places than we have for places of service. We confess that sometimes we have worked more for power than we have for purpose. Bless now those who gather in this place. Give the gifts of discernment. Give the gifts of wisdom. Give the gifts of vision to those who lead here. Grant the patience of cooperation. To those who debate here, grant clarity of thought. To those who decide here, grant the courage for truth. Keep up before us the broken places of our lives together, places of despair and disappointment. Set our ears to hear the cry of the poor. Set our eyes to see the need of the sick. Set our hearts to beat in rhythm with yours. And blend us with all people of goodwill, both in this place and beyond, in order that this county might be a signal of hope and fulfillment. In Jesus' name we pray. Let us all say amen.
Madam Supervisor, Ordinance, I just want you all to know that my pastor, Reverend Jerry Hicks, had just given that invocation. We thank you very much for doing that, Reverend Dix, and I'd like to say to each and every one of you all, you're invited to come and have worship with us any Sunday school 9 o'clock, regular service at 10. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. We're going to go ahead and to the next order of business, which is approval of the minutes for the regular council meeting that was scheduled February 4th, 2019. We have a motion.
Second.
So moved and second, then it is approved. The minutes for the regular county meeting scheduled February 4th, 2019. The next on our list is our ordinance. Third reading, ordinance number 2019-01, an ordinance transferring authority and control of the E911 Operations Center and Emergency Preparedness Department of Williamsburg County Government to the Sheriff of Williamsburg County, to further provide for the transfer of personnel, equipment, and budget authority with respect to these two departments, which shall hereafter be under the direction and the motion.
Supervisor, make a motion that we have third reading on August 2019-01.
Second.
All right, it is so ordered. So it is been seconded. We'll go ahead and been seconded and approved for third reading. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers the same. The ayes have it. It is so ordered. Third reading, ordinance number 2019-02, an ordinance authorizing the execution and delivery of a good and sufficient deed conveying interest in a portion of tax map number 45-453-003 containing 1.75 acres on Cowhead Road, Hemingway, South Carolina, to the town of Hemingway, pursuant to a fee in lieu of property tax agreement between Williamsburg County and Dart Industry, also known as Tupperware USA Inc., and execution of a partial release of lien of the same. Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It's been ordered in second. All those in favor of third reading of this ordinance signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposers the same. The ayes have it. second reading for ordinance number 2019-03, an ordinance to amend the agreement for development of a joint county industrial park executed on April 24th, 1995 by and between Berkeley County, South Carolina, and the Williamsburg County, South Carolina, providing for the development of a jointly owned and operated industrial business park so as to include additional property in Berkeley County as part of the joint county industrial park and other matters related to there too. Can we have a motion?
Everyone was glad on, I think, what this all about, I'm quite sure, because it had first reading on it. I make a motion at this time, and we'll have second reading.
Second.
All those in favor for second reading for ordinance number 2019-03, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. The ayes have it. Committee report. Today, a finance committee meeting was held, along with myself, as well as Councilman Woods, who couldn't be here at this time, and Councilman Floyd were also here for the budget, or for the finance meeting. It was in approving the proposed fiscal year 2019-2020 budget calendar for Williamsburg County government. You have anything you want to add? So everyone should have a copy of it.
This is the schedule of when you plan to have
Different events.
different events of the budget.
Yep. So as long as you all have a copy of it, we're good to go from here.
All right,
Next on our agenda is an appearance by Dentist E. Harvin, VFW State Commander. However, he told me a little bit earlier this afternoon that he did not need to attend or was not going to appear. It was in reference to an event that was scheduled to assist our federal employees, and pretty much he said, we're good, we're not going to have the event at this time. All right, the next appearance is by our Williamsburg County Development Board Incorporation. I made a request to our Mr. Jim Moore that he become more of a frequent visitor in our council meetings to kind of keep you up to date as far as economic development growth in Williamsburg County. This particular information session is going to be the first of a series. Because of time purposes, we have to break them down in small parts. So you will begin to get more and more of these as time goes on. There is a handout with all the information that is on the screen that will be appearing on the PowerPoint screen, as well as any additional information that he may have available. So he's going to be brief in presenting some information to you. Please feel free to ask him any questions.
Thank you, Madam Supervisor. Council, how are you tonight? Okay. As the supervisor, y'all heard the supervisor say, she had asked me to come by and talk a little bit about economic development and give you all a bit of a primer in it, and as far as what we're doing with the development board and some of the work that we're involved with here in the county. As we go through it, if y'all have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm happy to answer any and all questions as we, as Dawn said, we're going through it. And everything that she said, everything that we'll be going through on the screen is contained in your packet there as well. All right, so what is economic development? Economic development, our focus with the Economic Development Board is our mission statement says our focus is to improve the overall economic strength of the county and the economic quality of life for all of its residents. A lot of times when I share that with people, they kind of scratch their head and say, well, what does that really mean? Well, here's a little better idea of what we're really doing. what we're doing is we're working to improve the local economy by increasing the amount of money flowing within the community and improving the standard of living, the everyday standard of living for the people who live and work here. By doing that, we want to create more primary industry jobs and small business opportunities that will pay wages at or above the county's current average area wage, hourly wage, excuse me. And so when this happens, every business in the county grows, it prospers because there's more money to be spent here in the county. With that activity, more sales taxes collected, other taxes as people have more money to spend, they buy homes, they buy new cars, they buy other things that then additional taxes are collected on. And when that new tax revenue starts flowing through the county, then we're able to address that, or you all are able to address that with even more and improved county services. Our schools improve, and some of the socioeconomic challenges that we're faced with are also begin to fade away, and that's very, very important for all of us, I know. How do we do economic development? At the Economic Development Board, I like to look at it like a three-legged stool. There's a lot of different things that we're involved with, but the three main activities that we're involved with are working with our existing industries to make sure that they are going to stay here. All y'all have been around long enough to have seen a number of companies come and go in this county. And so what my goal is to work with our existing ones to make sure they stay here, and then they are profitable enough that they continue to grow and they create more jobs. The next leg of the stool is working to attract new industries, bringing new folks in. I know everyone has seen the new spec building that we're building out on 52. That's exactly one of those things that we want to use to bring new industry in. Again, bring new investment into the community, new dollars into the community, and create new jobs as well. And then the third leg of the stool is creating opportunities for small businesses. As long as I've been here, I've met so many people that have got so many great ideas for small business. And I believe in them, and we're trying to bring as many resources to the table so that we can help those folks, not only if they're an entrepreneur and they want to get a new business off the ground, or if they're an existing small business and we want to help them grow. And what I've done is we'll go through each one of those legs of the stool, and I want to expound on them just a little bit, if you'll allow me. When we're working with our existing industries, we have to remember that most of the jobs that get created in this community every year come from our existing industries. Now, some people might say, well, that's not the exciting, even sexy part of economic development. That's when the new companies come to town. Well, that may be true, but what we have to remember is we got to dance with the one who brung us. And we've got to, and that means those existing industries, and they're creating the creation of jobs that they are involved with. Roughly 70-75% of the new jobs that come out every year come from the folks that are already here. So it's very, very important, as you can see, to make sure that we're doing everything we can to help them be in place. They're constantly faced with all kinds of challenges, just like we all are. They're looking at a shrinking marketplace for their products. They're looking at foreign competition. They're looking at rising costs, healthcare, taxes, any other number of fuel costs, electricity costs. They're all faced with those things. So we want to make sure that what we're doing as a community and what we're providing for them in a workforce is going to be able to help them maintain those costs. That they can stave off any kind of big increases so they can be profitable, maybe even more profitable, and continue growing. So in order to do that, what's needed? Well, we need to, the first thing, like any relationship, like any good marriage or friendship or anything else, is we've got to have trust. We've got to have trust between those companies and the community. They've got to feel good about our elected officials, the workforce that we're providing, our schools, all of those things. They need to feel good here. And so we've got to make sure that we're doing everything we can to do that. When I thought about that, I was putting this together, I was reminded of a story about a company that I heard of in Georgia a few years back. It was a boat company. And they were in a community that I think they had maybe about 200 people working there at the company. Good company, had been there for probably 40 years. One day they announced that they were going to close and move away. Local officials got together and went to them and said, "Why? What's going on? Why are you moving? You're doing well." They said, "Because we can't get help right outside our facility." There were lots of puzzled looks, and they said, "But tell us more." The people from the community said, "Tell us more." They said, "Well, we've got branches that are hanging down over the gate to our facility, and every time we send a truck full of our brand new boats out that gate, those tree branches scratch the boat that's on top. And we've called and we've made requests, and we've never gotten those tree branches cut down." If they were going to leave, they were going to lose all those jobs in that community because they had not cut tree branches. That's the kind of thing we've got to do. We've got to make sure that even the little smallest details around trust and a company and how good it feels in a community are being taken care of. The other big part of that, obviously, is like I said, having a trained and dependable workforce in the community. All these companies that we're talking to right now in this community, they're always looking at having some new jobs open. And they need to make sure they've got the right kind of people coming into those jobs. They've got folks that are going to show up every day. They're going to show up and work hard for the wages that they pay. And one of the things that I was reminded of, we want companies that pay good wages in this community, but we got to make sure we're giving them a workforce of equal value. Very, very important. Okay, the exciting part of economic development is attracting new industries. Everybody loves to see somebody, a new company coming to town. We were very blessed, a year and a half ago to announce that UPI was coming into the old Firestone facility here in town. They are doing really, really well. They're growing faster than they had even planned, and are probably going to end up hiring more people than they initially had planned as well. That's the exciting thing. And that's the kind of thing that with those new companies coming to town, we've got to be thinking about. We've got to be thinking about companies that are going to be there in the future for us. Because as we know, with the companies and the industries that have changed over the years, that have come and gone, industries, the buggy whip. Any number of companies, the industries, as that industry changes and goes away, no longer needed, that company may close and go away. We've got to have companies that are here to be able to fill in those gaps and not only fill the gaps for those jobs, but also to utilize the skills that our future workforce is going to have. Now, all of us have young people in our lives that their skills are going to be vastly different from the skills that we have. And so we've got to be able to make sure that we've got companies that have got jobs that are going to be able to utilize them. The other big part of it, from a new company standpoint, is every citizen in the United States lives in the greatest town that there is to live in. Everybody's proud of where they live in. Everybody thinks, okay, I've got a great place to be. So we can't just say Williamsburg County is where you want to be. End of story. We've got to be willing to say you want to be in Williamsburg County because, and have a reason. Two of the greatest things we've got going for us are, from the geographic standpoint, that we are in between Florence and Charleston. Charleston is growing like a weed. We all know that. And with all the business that's coming into Charleston, it can only go one direction, and that's north. You can't go any further with that water out there. So as it continues, Charleston continues to push into Berkeley County, it's going to continue coming north towards us. For the companies that are like Boeing and Volvo and Mercedes, we're all familiar with those. For the suppliers for those companies, they want to be close. They have to be close to those big companies. But at the same time, they may not be able to afford or want to afford operating in and around Charleston. So we present a wonderful geographic advantage to them. They can come an hour north of Charleston and be able to operate much more cost effectively than they would in Charleston and yet they're only an hour away, and that's a beautiful thing. And the whole cost of doing business as well. We're very fortunate here too to have 4-lane highways and divided lane highways that give us access to the interstate. There's not a company out there that does not want to be closer to the interstate or closer to a port like we are here as well. And so being able to utilize our highways, our proximity to the port, and the rail for businesses to be able to take their products to and from all over this country are very, very key. So those are the types of things that we need to make sure that we're utilizing, and we're marketing very heavily with those. I get a lot of questions on a regular basis, I'm sure you all do too, about the process of economic development. How does it work? How do companies find us? How do they get here? How do they grow? That sort of thing. And who does it? Well, there's a lot of people that are involved in the process. When a company gets ready to either leave where they are, as we see companies in the Northeast, and New Jersey, and Illinois, and New York, and places like that, and they say, look, we just can't operate here anymore. Our customers are no longer here, or it costs too much to operate here. They decide to leave, or California, because they say, we're not doing business, as much business on the West Coast as we are on the East Coast. We need to move. And so they begin by talking to a number of people who then in turn talk to us. They may talk to the South Carolina Department of Commerce. That's usually their first stop. But if they're not, some companies, bigger companies, will actually hire a consultant to help them find the best spot for them to be in. So those consultants will then contact us. Utility companies, the folks with the South Carolina Power Team, which works for all the co-ops around the state, including our own Santee Electric, they are always out marketing and talking to companies really around the world, not just around this country. And when they meet companies that are looking to grow or leave where they are currently, they will then come back and talk to communities here in the state of South Carolina, just like us, and say, we've got this company that we're working with, this is what they need, can you help us? And then we began a search for either the land that the companies can use, the building that these companies can use. We talk about our workforce, we talk about our schools, we talk about our utilities. And if we're fortunate enough to get down to one of the finalists for these companies and choosing their next location, then we're also working, especially if we're working with the Department of Commerce, we'll start putting together incentive packages. And that's the kind of situation then where we will be coming to you and saying, this company is going to invest this many dollars in the county, they're going to create this many jobs in the county, they're going to create these other additional spin-off businesses for that matter. Whatever the case may be, we'll come back to you, ask you for your approval on the expenditure of money, whether we're giving the company some benefits towards getting a building finished or road work or something of that nature, and then or we'll be asking for some sort of tax incentives. I think everyone has probably heard of the fee in lieu of taxes program that we have in the county. And in fact, that's one of the issues that we were just dealing with earlier on one of our ordinances for Tupperware. So in that regard, we will come back, make sure you're all comfortable with it, since you're the overseeing body in the government, and then be able to go back, negotiate with the company, and if we're successful in our talks with the companies, then we'll be able to come back and announce new jobs and new investment in the county, which is very, very important. But that's a little bit of the idea behind how we end up with new jobs in the county, which I know is really that's the most important aspect that we're looking at. And the last leg is working with small businesses. Through our business hub in the development board's offices, we assist and coach entrepreneurs and small business owners to help them find all the resources they need, whether it's be financial, human resources, marketing, helping them find operating space for their businesses, and be able to help them find a home and become the next Coke or Apple or IBM or Walmart even. All those companies started out at one point as a small business, and look where they are today. And if we grow our own, then who knows where we might be able to come up with. Are there any questions? That's, like I said, that's just a little bit of a snapshot. As the supervisor asked me to come in and give a snapshot of what we're doing at the development board. I do want to tell y'all that, anytime y'all have questions about any things, if your constituents are asking questions of you and that you're not quite sure about, feel free to contact me, and I'll be glad to help you answer those questions.
Jim.
Yes, sir.
Do we offer the same or similar opportunity for startup business, community startup business as we do for the other industries that comes in? Like I said, we have someone wants to start up a restaurant. Do we give them tax breaks and stuff like we do the other businesses?
It's a good question, Councilman. We do not have a policy in place right now to go towards small business. We have other resources that we try to put on the table and help them get into business. It's something that I've actually got on a wish list. I'd like to work, whether it's countywide or work with individual municipalities, to be able to offer some sort of assistance for small businesses to get off the ground that way. And I'm hoping that this year we can work on that, frankly, because I think it is something that it's an additional resource that we can offer to help that happen.
And one other question: when the big industries come in, is infrastructure a big topic, and our school system, education, like say if a big company's going to come in and they're going to bring their executives, and their executives going to bring their families and stuff like that. Those are big issues that we're dealing with, infrastructure and the education system within the county?
Yes, sir, they absolutely are. Infrastructure, especially for certain industries who require, let's say, water and wastewater, that's very, very important to them. They want to know that we've got enough that we can meet their needs, and that we can, if it's on the wastewater side, that we can treat their outflow to make sure that it's that they're meeting all their DHEC and EPA regulations that way. From on the school side of things, they absolutely do. A lot of companies want to know, to your point, they want to know that if their team, their executives, their management who may move here, they want to know, okay, what are the schools like, and what are the opportunities for their children. But then they also, like I said, wanted to know about what kind of workforce that our school system is just turning out. Is it available when they need it? Are the skill sets going to be there, or can they be easily obtained? And again, that's one of the things, that's one of the beautiful things about that we have Williamsburg Tech here in the county, is that training is readily available and can be pretty quickly obtained that way. But yes, very much so. School system and infrastructure is very, very key.
Jim, just quick statement, Jim, and I guess a question. I've said for a number of years that I felt like one of the keys to economic development in Williamsburg County would be the deepening of the port of Georgetown and the 4-lane of 521, which would give you access, 4-lane access from the port to 52 to Charleston between the ports, and that Williamsburg County would certainly benefit from the deepening of the port. I understand from the senator that the governor has been pretty serious and pretty encouraging and thoughtful of deepening the port of Georgetown. Have you heard anything from our neighbors to the east, from the economic development folks over there about are they going to make that happen, or do you know?
Well, I have. I've talked to my counterparts in Georgetown County, and they have talked about the fact that yes, there is. I mean, there's been a large amount of interest for a number of years now, but it's really getting to the point. The governor's got a big push. We all heard what he said when he took office a few weeks ago. He's got a big push on it, but ultimately a lot of that money is going to have to come from the federal government. And so they've got some more leverage now, but given the administration and everything else, but we've still got to make that happen.
But if that happened, that certainly could have a positive spin-off on development for this county, don't you agree?
Oh, absolutely. That's a home run. You know, if we were able to 4-lane 521 all the way back to 95, and then of course it goes already where it's already been 4-lane, that would be a big benefit for us because of the access that it provides, for sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question
Yes, ma'am.
in regards to the hospital. I'm just not totally abreast of the latest developments and the progress that's being made on it. At one point I was, but I haven't heard anything about it recently as far as the location and any other updated information, please.
It's a good question. I'm not truly qualified to be able to speak to that. I might defer to the county attorney in that regard to speak about that. I know he's got a little more involvement with it than I do. I don't that's the appropriate time to do that now or not. So.
Answer your question. The answer is we're under a confidentiality agreement. All board members, all key employees, we cannot discuss anything at this time. And I'll let you determine whether or not that's good news.
I was wondering if you had the same information I had.
Anyone else? Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thank you. Members of council, I have to allow someone to come up and speak. He came all the way here. I thought we were going to be able to do this rather quickly. So if you come up here, sir, Mr. Driggers.
Yes, ma'am. I'm having some problems with the county closing or not working roads that I have right-of-ways on. And I feel like this is illegal, because later on my family, if you don't work it as a public road, then I could lose my right-of-way. One of them is Sweetwater Lane. It's been in a problem for 6, 8, 10 years, and another one is Haggard Lane, and it's got a canal that I'd spoken to Mr. Scott and Ms. Major about repairing, and they said that they would have to talk with council about whether it could be repaired, but it's been a public road for 100 years. And I really don't think it can be legally closed without the proper stuff going on, But is the county in the process of closing roads, not working?
Not to my knowledge, we aren't.
Okay, well, Ms. Major and Mr. Scott, they said they had to check to see if they could do it, but I know the canal we're speaking about, Mr. Treem just cleaned that canal out. And I think it's county tile that's in it, but they've washed out. And I got a tenant back there behind it, and I also got a farmer that works the land that cannot go in and out with this combine. And it puts a hardship on me.
Sweetwater.
Not knowing the road, I cannot comment pro or con. All I know is that public roads can lose their public character because they aren't used by the public. That can happen. But whether or not these roads are in that category or not, I have no.
But when a right-of-way is involved, can it lose its character?
It can.
But that would cost the person that owns it. Look, it would take his right-of-way.
That's the law. I'm just telling
I'd like to see that law.
Okay.
I'd like to see it because that's not the way I read it.
Okay, so Mr. Driggers, if you will, just make an appointment at our office. Let me get all your information and I will pass it on to the county attorney.
Thank you, ma'am. All right.
Anything else, members of council? No? We have a motion for adjournment. All those in favor for adjournment signify by saying aye. Opposed, the same. The ayes have it.